Are we currently living right here, right now, in the greatest meta in UVS history? I'm serious. I can't think of a better one in my time as a player. Let's talk about it. Well, to be the greatest, you first have to simply be great. And what makes a great meta compared to others? I got to thinking about this over the weekend, and in my opinion, there's three overarching categories that make a great meta. First, you have to have a wide breadth of possibilities. We need diversity in the game. Second, how is the quality of games? You can have diversity of characters, but the games aren't very fun at the table. So we want a high quality of games. And then third, we want it to be predictable, but not boring predictable. Just the right amount of mystery in the meta. You want to be known, but you also want to be a little unknown. Okay, let's take each of these one at a time and then talk about today's meta and if it hits the mark. First, breadth of possibilities. I mean, not just diverse characters, but also diverse strategies, also diverse symbols. We want tons and tons of diversity in the game. Well, if we take strategies and we kind of separate them into three overarching categories, we have like our aggro, win by turn 3 decks, our mid-range, win turn 4 through 6, and then our control decks, like, hey, we're going to drag you out to deep waters, we're going to take you to turn 10 and slowly outvalue you and win the game. Well, we have characters spanning this spectrum right now, and tons of different strategies. Like in aggro, we got Porco, we got like Pony. In control, we got like King Ghidorah coming off a Albuquerque regional win, still very, very strong. Elder Toguro, mid-range characters. Peak just came out. One of my favorite characters in the game. I think maybe the strongest character in the game at the moment. We also have classics like Godzilla. You can think of like Godzilla, I guess, as a little more aggro, but I think he's mid-range because he has the board wipe and he's typically not winning on turn 2 unless the rival just doesn't know how to block. But anyway, I'm talking too much about Godzilla here. But we have characters all across the spectrum of those categories, and we also have all sorts of other like sub-strategies in the game. Hand discard, foundation debuild, damage reduction, backup synergy characters, zone changing, speed manipulation, one punch. Now Deku 6 could be, he could be a little toxic if he ever wins an event. I think they're kind of letting him run wild right now because he hasn't actually put up some crazy results beyond a pretty good showing at Worlds by one of the OCE players. Massive stun, flip your stage, draw a million, momentum build up. We just have tons and tons of different viable strategies right now. I think 50 plus characters could make top cuts in Louisville. 50 plus out of the 214 characters I think that are legal and standard. Will be 218 by the time Louisville comes around. And of those 50 plus that could top cut, I think 20 to 25 could actually win. This is the most uncertain I'm feeling going into a regional ever. I don't know what people could come up with and bring and surprise everybody with. I think this is the first time I don't feel confident in like 10 characters to win the event. Like it used to be, hey, once you're outside the top 10, maybe you can get cute and make top cuts, but you aren't winning the whole thing. Right now, yeah, I think 20, 25 characters could legitimately win Louisville coming up. Okay, so we're clearly very, very diverse at the moment. But how is the quality of games? Well, to measure game quality, we first want games to last a reasonable length of time. I think that the sweet spot is about 15 to 30 minutes or about 4 to 6 turns per game. Now, of course, this is going to be simply the average. So some games could be done in 2 turns. Some games could be done in 10 plus turns. But if you take the totality of Swiss rounds at a regional and then you average it out, if the average game is about 15 to 30 minutes, I think you've hit it perfectly. You want most players to be done with their rounds without ending in a draw, and you want them to take up like 45 to 60 minutes. That way they're not just waiting forever for the next round of Swiss to start. Also, you want lots of key decision moments for both players. I think a common misconception in Universus is that long games are better because long games got more decision points. And I don't think that's really true, to be honest with you. I think a lot of times games can go long, but they're not going long for having more decision moments. In fact, they can get quite stale. I think back to like my Mill Rodan deck that I took to Atlanta. That deck was certainly not playing more Universus although it was extending games out a really, really long time. So we don't need hundreds of key decision moments, but just can each game give you 2 to 4 real decision moments as a player where you think back on it and you think, gosh, if I had done something differently, could I have pulled out a win? And you want both players to be having thoughts like these. So let's analyze this make-believe game that I put together this morning. I took a peak deck and put it into Rodan. Let's say that as you're the peak player and you just drew this hand of 6 cards. You got a Colossus SWAT, a Signal Shot, and then we have 3 foundations, Always Cool, Weapon Clash, Unusual Behavior, and then we have Showdown. Our rival is Rodan. They have 5 ready foundations and 3 cards in hand. We have 8 foundations, of which we have a Marley's Warriors, which we have to use as a first form to give our checks +1. And then we have Latent Skill and Pushing the Limits as draw. We have Arrogant Fighter to seal something in Rodan stage. And then we have Weapon Clash that can build us another foundation to blow up. We have 2 face down foundations. Could be attacks. Could be some foundations. And then we have Peak and Anti-Titan Artillery. So what are we going to do with this turn? You know, this is the core decision of this turn that could decide this entire game. Are we going to attack? Are we going to build? Or are we going to do a combination of those 2 and throw a poke out and then build? Well, this really isn't an easy decision. And by the way, you're on the clock and you can't slow play your rival. You have 20 seconds to make this decision. Well, if we attack, okay, it doesn't seem like we have the attacks to do any damage to Rodan, but could we actually, maybe we have a couple attacks there that are face down and Signal Shot could pick them up. Also, Colossus SWAT is going to build us 2 face down foundations. Weapon Clash could build us a face down foundation. Peak could build us a face down foundation. So that's 4 extra opportunities if we play Signal Shot as our second attack to find another attack from there. We also, if we throw out an attack, we could then press Latent Skill and Pushing the Limits and draw an extra 3 cards. So we almost assuredly will see an attack for Signal Shot. We have the opportunity to draw 3. There's a possibility for a lethal line, but we have to decide right now if we want to commit to that because we have to press the Marley's Warriors before we're going to find out what's going to happen in the future. And then if we do attack, when are we going to pop the Arrogant Fighter? You know, if we throw out the Colossus SWAT, check 5, it's really a 6 because Marley's Warriors, Arrogant Fighter isn't committed. Are we going to blow it up on the first attack to seal something in Rodan stage? What are we going to seal in Rodan stage? Are we going to go for the Incubating? Are we going to go for the Mikasa Defeats? Are we going to go for the Aaron Sidestep? There's a lot of really, really good defensive choices in Rodan stage to choose from. What do we think the cards in Rodan's hand are? Are they going to have that like Breaker 3 attack? Are they going to have a Barrier Shield in there? What are they going to have to stop us? Are those cards that we want to take out of Rodan's hand, or are those cards that we want to keep in Rodan's hand? You know, if we attack, we're going to be forcing them to block and do things, and we're going to suck those cards out. Or if we just build, we can kind of stick our rival with at least 2 out of 3 of those cards. So if they're all 3 foundations, we can guarantee that our Rodan has 2 out of 7 of their cards in their next turn as foundations. Maybe we just build. Maybe this isn't as guaranteed as we want. And if we start on an attack string, we're going to be blowing up our stage. We're going to be flipping all of our resources. You know, if we use Marley's Warriors here, we're not going to have Marley's Warriors in the future. So maybe we just go ahead and build. And these are good foundations to build. Always Cool, Weapon Clash, Unusual Behavior. They all turn themselves into 2 foundations. So this could be like building 6 foundations here. Plus we can use the Weapon Clash. Plus if they attack us, we can use Peak. We can have 16 foundations by the time our next turn comes around. And then maybe we get the ability on defense to use Showdown, and we can commit down 2 of Rodan's best things. So building could be really good here. But at the same time, maybe this is the most exposed Rodan is going to be the entire match. Maybe there will never be another time where we have to go through less or 5 or fewer foundations to kill Rodan, and maybe we would have found it. You know, we Signal Shot, we find Luna Ring, we draw 3, we draw into like a Tri-Gravity Beam, and we get to rip one of those 3 cards out in hand, and now that's not enough cards for Rodan to defend. If we just poke and build, we could just throw the Signal Shot out and then pick up a face down as like a selective draw. Maybe we have like a face down Showdown there. We could like double Showdown block. That could be something. If we attack at all, we're going to be spending our resources, so now we can't block as heavily. Rodan's attacks are really, really difficult to block. If we just build though, there's a non-zero chance that we just die here. Like, there are hundreds of questions being asked here, but the fundamental one is attack, build, or poke and build. And I know I just took way too long on that. But my point is that this is a key decision moment in this game. And whatever is chosen, you can tell that right here is going to be a great game of Universus. And it's going to be one where the losing player is going to want to rewind the clock and make some decisions differently. And that's a great game. Okay, and we also want the meta to be predictable, but not boring. And I should say that for this quality of games, this is really hard to like quantify. It's much more of like a feeling type thing. Like, how are you feeling when you're playing it? I just know that like in team testing right now, I'm having a really, really fun time playing Universus. It feels so much better than playing Air Nick Reagan in the last meta. You know, that didn't feel healthy at all. Right now, it feels like a lot of great games of Universus are being played. So maybe the meta is different at your local game store and you're feeling differently, but you know, this is hard. I don't have the data to prove that both of these points are actually happening. I just feel like they are. Okay. Yeah, we want to have a little bit of mystery here, but we also want to be a little bit known. So We want a strong expectation of matchups and representation. We want good testing to pay off at a regional. And for us to have good testing, we have to know what we're going to be playing against at the regional. Well, right now at Louisville, we can almost guarantee that peak is going to be 10 to 20% of the field. And so if you know that, then you know that you need to be practicing into peak right now. Do you have a strategy to defeat this character? This character is going to have a lot of face down foundations in their stage. This character has to blow up their stage to really get a lot of value. Do you have a way to counteract those things? And then go and watch Tim Keefe's video. He did a poll on the meta on what people were going to play. This was about a month ago, but it's still basically the same meta. You can see that a lot of people are going to plan to play King Ghidorah, Deku 6, Jamie, Rodan, Annie. I think those were like the most commonly said characters, but we have a pretty good feel for the meta right now. If you look at Albuquerque, like King Ghidorah was the most represented character, I think, maybe alongside Nick Reagan, but it was at least 10% plus of the field. So you can probably expect more King Ghidorah. I mean, that character's been out for a year, always sees pretty heavy representation at United States events. So I think we have a pretty solid expectation of who's going to be there. And I'm only going to talk about peak here, but go and watch Tim Keefe's video to see the rest of the characters that the community was saying that they were thinking about playing. Okay, and then we also want a feeling that there's still room to explore. If everything is known, it gets stale and boring. We want to feel like we can find a deck that surprises everybody, or we can find a card or some combo that nobody sees coming, but you were the one that found it. And we have 200 plus characters right now to choose from, and all of them have gotten different things from Attack on Titan set 3. And so there's, even these past characters have new and exciting ways that you can explore deck building for them. And then we have 2,200 plus cards. You cannot tell me that our small player base has found every single combo, every single broken combo that there is available. I know that like the Let's Talk UVS team has not necessarily found the broken combo, in my opinion. We found some good combos, but I don't think we found anything like the Air Nick Reagan deck that we had built for Albuquerque. Maybe Travis Tangeman and the guys on Team MGLA have found something absolutely crazy, and they're ready just to blow our minds in Louisville. I honestly wouldn't doubt it. There is so much more room to be explored. I have probably played this meta for now 100 plus hours, and I feel like I'm just scratching the surface on what is possible. And we are such a small game that you can really break new ground and find some broken deck and surprise everybody. The world is yours to explore. So for my 3 categories that make up a great meta, I think we check the box for all of them right now. We're diverse, games are fun, and the meta is predictable, but it's not stale quite yet. So, the author of Jaws, Peter Benchley, he said, "The past always seems better when you look back on it than it did at the time. And the present never looks as good as it will in the future." At any point in my time as a player, and I've played Universus for about 2.5 years now, maybe 3 years. If you asked 100 Universus players, is the meta right now good or bad? Almost all the time, the vast majority of them would say bad. And then if you ask them why it was bad, they would all give you different answers. Everybody has different reasons, but everybody's always upset with the meta. And then when we look back on it, we say, oh yeah, those metas were a lot of fun. Like right now, there's at least in my friends group, there's been like a lot of nostalgia for 2023 US Nationals. Like that was a great meta with Overhaul and Todoroki against each other in the finals. Mirio was very, very strong. You had Mimic, I think, got top 4 with Phil Birch. Like Nomu was good. It was a Amajiki. It was a pretty diverse meta and a good time. But at the time, I don't remember everybody being like, oh my gosh, this is great. I remember everybody complaining about it. But now we look back on it 2 years later and we think, oh, that was a really great time. And I think right now, if you want to find something to complain about in the meta, you can. Like, I made it very known that I'm upset, and I still am upset, with the design of the infinity symbol cards in the latest Attack on Titan set. I don't like Unyielding Destruction. I still don't like Unyielding Destruction. I think everything I said in my Infinity Problem video was pretty spot on about the infinity symbol. I don't like Filled with Doubt. There's a lot of things in the meta that I'm not a huge fan of. But when I look at the meta as totality, I'm having a great time as a player. And I think it's good sometimes to sit back and appreciate where we are. For all the craziness that comes out with every set, the designers of this game, in my opinion, have done a really fantastic job. And I'm very appreciative to them for the game that they've given us to enjoy. So is this the greatest meta ever? Well, I've only been playing for 3 years, so this is an honest question for me. I think it's the greatest meta since I've been a player, but, I've only been a player for a very small fraction of the time that Universus has been around. So did I hit the nail on the head with this one? Would you have changed the categories of what makes a great meta? Do you feel differently about the current meta that we have today? Or do you think that a meta that we've had in the recent past has actually been better? If you do think so, tell me why in the comments. Or even if you just agree with me, tell me why in the comments. Was there anything I missed that is also making this meta particularly better than others? Or am I just looking at this right now with rose-colored glasses on, and Louisville is actually going to be a lot worse than I'm expecting, and there's a monster out there that I just don't know about that's going to absolutely stomp on everybody? I don't know. Tell me in the comments. I'll see you guys next time.